What's better than a Friday? Well, probably Saturday. But Fridays have Respawn and 30 here on League Unlock with Eric and Mathos breaking down the latest and the greatest in esports. As always, starting off with a little bit of Overwatch League action. Week 3 in the final stage. We're finally getting close to those playoff matchups. The main playoffs that, last more than one day. They last a month.
Yep. That playoff setup is really long.
Yeah, there's a lot. The Dallas Fuel, we always have them on the show because we talk about their ineptitude as an entire organization. But they had a win streak coming into week 3.
A wild one, yeah.
But it's gone.
It is gone. I mean, they beat some really crappy teams.
Win streak, though.
Yeah, it was a win streak. Unfortunately for those guys, in the long run, things aren't going to work out too much better because now the real teams have to be played, starting off with the unexpected San Francisco Shock. Boston needs to be taking notes because let's be real here. This is a team that stole your coach and looks infinitely better for it. Dallas has one meta, and it's really cute to watch them start off the game. And then, maybe we'll run double sniper. Nah, who are we kidding? Let's put Mickey on the Brigitte and pray. I mean, they decided to put AKM on the Widow instead of Taimu. Taimu's had a really hot game, and a positive Taimu's a great Taimu. Probably, my guess would be they decided to keep Taimu on the bench because if Taimu took a pistol whipping in this match, then he'd be depressed and be in a funk and then be garbage for the rest of the set. The Shock looks stellar overall. These guys have made themselves leaps and bounds, and yes, they're thumping on the Dallas Fuel, but they made some really smart switches. Sinatra's Brigitte, not so hot, but they forced Tracer twice on Gibraltar and looked great for it on point 1. Totally dismantled the entire defense of the Dallas Fuel. Overall, this is a team that is looking to just straight up demolish people's stage and overall playoff hopes. These guys are looking great. And to boot, if they get themselves into the stage playoffs, that's a monumental win. They talked about it on the broadcast, and I'm going to echo that sentiment. If these guys get stage playoffs, mission accomplished. Year 1 was a great success for the San Francisco Shock.
Yeah, definitely a team that's kind of performed better throughout the entire Season 1 than I think a lot of people were expecting. The Battle of LA started off Stage 4 and Week 3, sorry. And day 1 was just a bunch of sweeps. Wasn't super exciting, so the Battle of LA, it was some high caliber competition, but the Gladiators, who lost that initial matchup, got back on track on day 2, and they still are looking like a top tier team.
They massacred Philly. This is one of those games where Philly looked like they could have done some things, and then it just cataclysmically fell apart. Carpe is a god. Carpe is probably in the top 3 of the league MVP standings right now. And unfortunately, not even he can carry this much Atlas level dead weight. Shadowburn is being substituted in for EQO as he has a wrist injury. And what you can see that the team has less aggression and more, patience and keeping things chill, which has some synergy in there with Sato and Hotfuzz. Tank style play, a lot more safety and a lot more poking in and harassing, but they were forced to do some things they didn't like, i.e. pick Shadowburn out of spawn every single time because this dude just got massacred. And when he got massacred, there was no one left to really do any kind of carrying whatsoever. Philly's in a weird spot. They're not necessarily in a capable position. They had themselves early on, a good run, looking good, looking hot, looking things going, but losing to Dallas Fuel, they've got one choke in them, to be fair. And the Gladiators are a great team, but I mean, that is a brutal beating that no one should ever have to take. They just aren't as flexible as they used to be, despite the fact that they were being touted as supremely flexible in the 3rd stage. This meta has not been too kind to them. Carpe's still a lord, though. And to the Gladiators, even though they lost, they got back on. Fisher is legitimately best tank in the league. Gonna say it now. Don't really care. I don't need a gesture. No, we talked about Gamsu last stage. Gamsu's not looking too hot. Fisher just keeps making the most disgusting plays physically possible. The team looks great. Shaz and Big Goose, possibly the best Western duo of supports we got right now. I mean, everyone else's support duos, and generally speaking, throughout the league are pretty garbage, if you're not Korean. So Gladiators are looking great. They're still looking very strong going into the stage playoffs. And if they keep pushing this, they could probably squeeze in down at the bottom of the 6th or 5th spot for the overall stage playoffs.
Yeah, they continue to look good. after their Stage 3 performance. Boston had a terrific Stage 3 performance, and they continue to look terrible. They're down to 0-5 now after going 10-0. They're going for the reverse dream of 0-10.
I'm almost willing to say it is going to happen. You know, and it's because if Shanghai wasn't in this league and Florida wasn't playing like complete and utter garbage right now, Boston would guaranteed go 0-10. Unfortunately, you know, they get themselves a free wins, the consolation prizes. Huck is wondering why he isn't running the Canadian World Cup team. It's because you're running your 15-0 team into the ground in the Overwatch League. You fired your best coach, and your team looks like a bunch of clowns right now. That's why you're not running the damn league right now. London, on the other side of things, yeah, this was a bit of a grind, but nevertheless, the team is still looking infinitely better when they don't have all the clutter going around of the other 7 guys they had on their team of top-level talent. Quite frankly, their entire bench is better than 90% of this league, and overall, vast improvements from London across the board. They even showed a clip during the entire run of their match with Boston where they said, you know, we had a lot of talent and we tried to cater to too much talent, and now here we sit riding pine on a bunch of dudes, and we finally have, like, they have a message, they have one voice, and they can get themselves into some real practicing and some grinding. They're still a little rigid, still a little sloppy, but there's still kinks to work out, and they got themselves a bit of a streak going themselves. So London's looking great. Maybe they can keep themselves in contention for overall playoffs at the end of the day. Stage playoffs, you know, highly likely at this stage of the game. But they still have yet to face some of the big bangers. So we'll see how that goes for them.
They'll have their work cut out for them to close out the final stage. Tomorrow, Saturday, the big matchup of Stage 4 so far. Valiant taking on New York. 2 5-0 squads. Obviously, New York are huge favorites. Valiant have any chance of handing them their first loss?
I think they'll get them a map.
Oh, progress?
Yeah, I'll give them the map. I'll give them the 3-1. I mean, the thing is with New York, they're in a spot right now where they're in such a commanding lead. Wizard Hyung has said he doesn't care about this stage at all. These guys like to throw Pine into the mix for fun. Janice is getting more play than he normally does. We already talked about that. Last stage, you're throwing in Janice and you're not really prepping. So there is definitely a chance to take a map or two. They're not gonna, like, Valiant's good right now. Valiant is definitely in great shape. But to beat New York, you're gonna have to play out of your mind. And this would be the stage to do it, quite frankly. I mean, with the lack of them truly giving any type of preparation. They've already sold out the Barclays Center, 20K seats, you know, of hungry New York fans waiting to watch these guys stomp through the masses. They're probably saving all the good and all their effort for the month-long playoff grind where they're just going to try to stomp everybody, because Wizard Hyung doesn't like 3-1s. He likes 4-0s, nice and clean.
And depending on how well the draw is, if they've already sold out Barclays Center, that's pretty hype. That's going to, you know, have an effect on the expansion of the Overwatch League, because Blizzard wants 6 more teams for Season 2. I thought like 2, maybe 4. 6 seems insane.
6 is insane when you're talking about a $60 million potential buy-in. Now, to be fair, that $20 million buy-in originally sounded like a pretty good deal, and probably still is a great deal. Potential earnings seem like a really ridiculous thing to charge. You know, this house is gonna be worth something later, so why don't you just give me more than it's worth now? It's a little bit of a ridiculous pitch. They're currently going in and around Europe and Scandinavia as most of their hopes. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get another Chinese team, despite the absolute debacle that the Dragons have turned into. Getting a Beijing team may work out. There's still a lot of players in China that would be totally worthwhile to see play in the Overwatch League. They're looking at Berlin specifically was a name made. They have, while officially said they want 6 teams, they haven't officially said how much everything's gonna cost. And they're like, well, it's clear to see that we're doing great. Is it clear to see? I mean, you can look at all the numbers and things are slouching. We already talked about that last week. Is it a permanent slouch in the player base? Or is it a permanent slouch in the viewer base? Who knows? We'll see how things work out. At the end of year 1 is usually when you want to hawk your goods and services. It's not looking too hot if these numbers stay the same. And of course, Blizzard keeps all their metrics to themselves. So only Blizzard can really tell us and by association lie to us about how successful this league actually is. And all that aside, everybody has said that expectations have been trounced. Everybody thought this was going to do much worse than it has, and that's a great time. But $60 million, 6-team expansion, attempts to move into a global geolocation system, a tall order to say the least.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still the fan base there, but maybe they got to think about how long these seasons are, because there's definitely a serious dip towards the end, as we've seen. Coming up after the break, Starladder 5 action from CSGO, and we got some serious drama in the Dota 2 scene with evil geniuses. Hello friends, welcome back to Respawn in 30 here on League Unlocked. Eric and Mathos jumping ahead to some CSGO action. Starladder 5 from Kiev, and can you believe it? SK Gaming got out of groups. They performed well in the group stage.
Looked great!
Wow.
I'm stunned. Literally floored. So are some analysts. We'll get into that a little bit later. This possibly was the best that SK has looked all year round. Liquid is a team that has been consistently improving and looking great themselves. We talked about it last week. They could very well be a top 2 team right now. Nevertheless, SK went and ground on them. These are really close maps across the board. Inferno was a barn burner of a finale. This play is gross right here. Real talk. Fur just did his thing, messed them up on the flip, and then here we go. Gangbang Cold Zero shanks the man to get the W. Delicious. Big pop off from the man at the end. Deservedly so, questionably. I mean, that was actually the best you ever looked. But a dot is not a line, let alone a pattern. So we'll see how the rest of this tournament goes for these guys. They're most likely going to be playing Na'Vi, the way things are turning out in Starladder. Liquid does make it through, however, and we could get ourselves a juicy semifinal with them, or possibly a final, depending on how the Swiss draw breaks down. Nevertheless, SK's looking good, Liquid's looking good, and AGO playing out of their minds as well. Don't even know where these guys came from. Smacked up Mouse, did everything that they could. Should be a pretty sweet finals. That's rolling out Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, definitely hoping for some kind of rematch between SK and Liquid, because that was a great set, and obviously the story with Taco is fantastic.
Delicious.
Tasty, tasty goodness. Speaking of tasty, the entire Dota 2 scene is enthralled with this EG drama, releasing players. Guys aren't too excited about it. Even Grant on his stream had a little funny moment where he said, I'll break down all the drama. Then he muted his mic and just did a bunch of animated movements, which was pretty hilarious. But what is EG doing?
Well, first of all, losing.
Yep.
That's a bad beat to start off the day.
In heartbreaking fashion.
Oh, crushing. They went and they got their backs blown out at Birmingham to some of the trashiest teams that they absolutely should have beat. Retorted immediately by axing Misery, who was their captain, and Fear either released himself or left, but either way, both guys are relieved. Now, according to Misery, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just reactionarily gonna execute the man. And with 3 dudes left, there was only one thing to do: gut another team. So EG went and got themselves Fly and S4 from OG, smacked their team up, and knocked them out of the Super Major, which is starting tomorrow. So guess what, friends? The story gets juicier. Optic is now taking OG's place. Optic ran over a little guy called PPD. And PPD used to be the man who ran EG until EG gave him the DOS boot. So EG and Optic could very well, if EG doesn't swallow a gun at this tournament too and bomb out, they could possibly play each other. And even more juicy than that, the last 2 teams possible for a top 8 TI direct invite is Optic and VGJ Thunder. They just so happen to be in the same group, so these guys are literally playing for their TI lives and a month off instead of grinding through the horrific open bracket qualifiers to get themselves in far further down into the bracket. This is going to be one sweet piece of Dota 2 drama. I'm hoping that Optic goes ham, because nothing makes me happier than some poetic justice.
And right now, players on EG, former and current, fear and misery is what they're feeling when they're associated with that team. A bit of drama there. It's not just Optic doing well in Dota 2. They're looking pretty good in the CWL playoffs too in Call of Duty. It's Group B now who's getting underway in Week 3, and it's Optic sitting at the top of the standings, 3-0. They only played 3 games in the first week. They play 4 games next week.
Yeah, and this was a stomping of all stompings. The highlight reel here that we're showing is the Luminosity Optic game, and if you're wondering why, folks, it's because their good buddy, Formal, the guy they fired not 3 weeks ago, is on that team. They replaced him with Octane and Methods. Octane and Methods were going buck this set. So the reinvigorated, non-choky version of Optic is looking stellar right now in Call of Duty. Formal, unfortunately, does not get to taste the sweetness of revenge. He'll have to run it back at a later date. Luminosity sitting at 2-2. Optic sitting at 3-1. They got themselves another bang. And of course, or 3-0, I should say, and Rise Nation is now sitting at 3-1. Those guys have had themselves a good run, but unfortunately for them, not the perfect streak. 75% win map across the board. Optic only dropped the 1 game out of the 3 sets that they played. These guys are looking absolutely stellar.
Yeah, they went 9-1 in those matchups. We'll see how they do with more games in Week 2. Battle Royale drama, as there always tends to be. It's not quite about esports. PUBG gotta sue Epic Games and Fortnite for copyright infringement. If that's the case, every MOBA game should be suing each other right now.
This is weird. I mean, we're in a spot right now where you've got a game that is ripping off itself, its own creator twice, and a movie. Yet denying all of that because nobody wants to go back in time and sue the guys who made Battle Royale in Japan. And now they're suing Fortnite for copyright infringement, saying that their UI and some of their overall gameplay decisions were ripped wholesale from them. The real fun here is twofold. One, Epic is actually a partner of Bluehole, the guys who made PUBG. Epic, making Fortnite, also have themselves a sweet little deal with a certain Korean best friend looking to get Fortnite into all the PC bangs. That starts practically this month. So it's a little bit silly that a lawsuit that these guys stuck down in January is only now becoming public, possibly weeks or days before every Korean cyber cafe gets themselves a taste of that sweet, sweet, goofy floss dancing and whatever cartoonish shopping cart-driven excitement that Fortnite brings to the table. Also, you know, you might be a little bit salty that you're hemorrhaging viewers and players. So maybe they get a slice of that pie and they can work it out. I doubt it, though.
I just love any drama between these two games because they both blew up onto the scene. Fortnite is obviously still running away with it in terms of viewership. But I love the rivalry that these guys have because they are the same game. Dota and League needs to start suing each other too because they're the same game.
Post haste.